Hello everyone, BB French here, Olympic View Property Services. Today I'm talking about the move out process. So I argue that the move out process starts and is triggered by a notice of vacate. So what's going to happen with the move out process is the first thing you got to do is acknowledge that you received the notice of vacate. We do an email typically. Depending on the tenant, usually an email. If I know they don't use email based on my experience working with them over the past year, 2, 3, 4 years, then I'll go ahead and text them or call them based on their communication preference. But typically an email that says, thank you for submitting proper notice to vacate. And then the same letter, that same email, I go ahead and schedule a pre-move inspection. And I use the language that your presence is welcome, but is not required. We're simply looking for upgrades we can do at turnover. We're not looking for anything in particular. It's for our planning purposes, and it is. So that works out because it's true. So what we're gonna do is go walk through the unit and look for major upgrades that allows us to plan. So we know how long and who we need to schedule, which I talk about more so in the turnover turnover video. But that's the first process, is the pre-move walkthrough. Okay, and then depending on how much work is needed, go ahead and just schedule out your vendors. Like, make your plan of action of what's going to happen at turnover. So your move out date is this day, so you know that they're going to be out by the last day of the month, and so the first day after that, the handyman is scheduled. Okay, so if it's going to need a lot of work, give them 2 or 3 days, depending on your timeline, and you'll begin to learn how long things take. Then you go there, and then as soon as the handyman's done, the painter's in. Okay, and there can be some crossover there, but not much, because they'll get in each other's way. Then you're going to have the floor guy next, or the shampooer next, and then the cleaner. That's how it's going to go. Maybe you won't need the floor guy, so maybe you just need the handyman and the shampooer and the cleaner. That's it. That's the least you're going to need. The handyman could just as well be your site manager, depending on how that's going to go. Okay, if the walls don't need to be painted, maybe just little touch-ups here and there. Just depends. Okay, and then on the final day of the move out, this is where I use some discretion, because if you know the unit's in pretty good shape, we don't really do a very formal move out with the tenant and walk through and go through everything, because we just know, like, there's going to be a few little things, but for the most part it's going to be fine. Just leave the keys. We'll do the move out condition report. We always actually do the report and email it to them, but they're busy, they're moving, all these things are happening, they don't necessarily want to do the walkthrough with you. And if you know it's not going to be a big thing, then go ahead and just do it without them. But if you anticipate issues, if you know that, like, the unit is messed up, it's going to need a lot of work, and you're going to have some charges, go ahead and ask them to be there present, so you can go through and tell them what they will be charged for and give them the opportunity to fix those things. Most likely they can't, but you're at least giving them the opportunity and preparing them for the fact that they're not going to receive all or most of their deposit back. The last piece that you're going to need from them, regardless if they're going to be present or not, is the forwarding address and who and how to split up the security deposit. And I always want that in writing. So if it's if it's 2 roommates, how is it going to be dispersed? If it's a couple and they're breaking up, how is it going to be dispersed? Make sure both parties are agreeing to how that's going to go, and make sure you have that in writing, even if it's via email, so that there's not any confusion and there's not any dispute after the fact.